Hey everybody, my name's Ed Travers. My pronouns are he, him, and his. I'm an Anglican priest in the Diocese of Nova Scotia and Prince Edward Island. I get to serve in the beautiful town of Shelburne, Nova Scotia in the awesome parish of Christchurch-shelburne that sits on the ancestral and on the unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. I give thanks for you all every day. I thank God especially for all that you teach me, all that you share with me, and how you inspire me through your comments and your emails. I'm wearing the t-shirt today, which means we're going to be talking about Jesus the Progressive. In particular, we're going to be talking about how Jesus shows us his progressive nature through his interactions with the women of his time. Before we get started, we need to address the culture within which Jesus found himself, because the stories I'm going to tell you aren't going to seem too terribly progressive here in the West. It's a matter of understanding the cultural context. Where Jesus was, the time and the place, he existed in a society that was intensely male-dominated. Women had a very particular place in the social structure. It was not in a place of leadership. It was not as a student. It was not in the synagogues or the temples. It was women were there to make sure the family was taken care of. Before marriage, women were, females were there to take care of the children and to help the mother with keeping the house moving forward, keeping the family together. After marriage, they were required to bear children and to keep the house moving forward. In Jesus' day, this was where women found themselves. The first story I want to remind you of is the story of Jesus, Mary, and Martha. I'm sure you've heard of it. Jesus is visiting his friend Lazarus and his sisters Mary and Martha. And after a big meal with Jesus and the family and his disciples, Martha finds herself in the kitchen cleaning up. Now she's doing what traditionally would be required of her to do. She's doing what she feels is right. She's doing what she learned to do being raised in that culture. Take care of the family. She probably cooked the meal as well, and now she was cleaning up after it. And Martha gets tired of this, and she comes out and says, Jesus, how come you don't tell my sister Mary to come and help me with these chores? Mary had chosen to sit in the room and listen to what Jesus was saying. Jesus tells Martha, Mary has chosen what is best. Mary's chosen what is best for her. This is progressive, not because Jesus is defending Mary, that Mary doesn't go and do the dishes. It's progressive because Jesus has permitted Mary to be in the room while he was teaching. Up until, right up through the 1800s, in Canada, there were situations where women were not permitted to be in university classes. And the professors, the teachers, would not start speaking. They would walk out if there was a woman sitting in that classroom for the purpose of learning. They would not open their mouth. They would not waste their breath if a woman was in their class to learn. So 2,000 years ago for Jesus, it would not have been uncommon, not only that Jesus would have not spoken, not taught, but have this woman physically removed from his presence so that he can get on with doing the important things. Today, talking with a woman in the room who doesn't want to do the dishes, come on, that's nothing. In Jesus' day, it was huge. It was wildly progressive. The second story I want to remind you of is the story of the Canaanite woman that Jesus encounters. And in this story, of course, it's the woman who she's calling out, Jesus, help my daughter, my daughter's sick, my daughter's dying. And Jesus is ignoring her. And the disciples get so upset, they get so worked up by this kind of thing, that they say to Jesus, why don't you just send her away? Be rid of her. She's such a nuisance to us. The disciples are reacting to Jesus' response. What they're seeing in Jesus is typical of every other man that they would have encountered. Just going to ignore the woman. So they do what the disciples always seem to do, which is they pile on. They pile on in the direction they think is best. Jesus is actually using this encounter with the Canaanite woman to teach his disciples something. And he's going to let this woman be the primary teacher in this moment. And so finally he says, it's not right for me to help you out. You're a Canaanite, you're a woman, I'm here to serve the children of Israel. It wouldn't be right to share the food that belongs to the children with the dogs. Now what Jesus has done with that statement is he's used the metaphor. He's just called this woman a dog. Right? She's a Canaanite, she's not of Israel, and she's a woman. He's just offered the stereotypical. The woman, however, she doesn't take his no for an answer. She doesn't even bat an eye at his perceived insult. Right? He called her a dog. He equated her to a dog. She doesn't even bat an eye to it. She says, "Yes, Lord, but even the dogs eat the crumbs." To which Jesus responds with an about face. What great faith you have. Your daughter will be healed this day. It sounds like Jesus is being kind of a jerk here. The truth is he's not. He's using the situation to teach his disciples something. He shows his disciples in this moment, with this woman's help, again, with her as the primary teacher, she teaches the disciples about the importance of persistent prayer, the importance of continuously and relentlessly asking for what you need. She shows them an example of how Jesus wants people to reach out to God continuously. At the exact same time, because Jesus gives in to her request, what he shows his disciples in this moment is that this woman's voice matters. Her request matters. Her desires, her pleas, they matter to God. That God does not see gender, that God does not see sex. That for God, all people are equal. All people have a right to approach the throne. All people have a right to be heard. Again, in our society here in the West, maybe these don't sound like terribly progressive ideals. But in Jesus' day, with an entirely male-dominated system that physically kept women in their place, that used emotional structures such as shame to keep women in their place. Jesus, in these two encounters and in several others in the New Testament, he treats them like real people. People that deserve to be heard, people that deserve to be taught, people that deserve to have time spent with them. These are huge. So my question when I read these stories, I don't just assume that, okay, I should listen to the women in my community or I should listen to the people in my community. What I ask myself is, if in his day he was willing to go to that extreme, where should we go? How do we apply those same principles, those same desires to break down social structures when it comes to relating between male and female, men and women, when it comes to relating to brothers and sisters in the LGBTQ community, whoever? These stories, his interactions with these women. For us, as people who hope to be progressively minded, we need to remember. We need to ask ourselves, if Jesus were here today, how would he be responding to certain situations? How would he be responding to certain people? How would he be listening? How would he be talking? How would he be sharing? How would he be interacting? May the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you. And may you continuously know the peace of being in the Lord's presence. And I pray that if you choose to follow in the footsteps of Jesus, to call yourself a Christian, that you would be willing to be progressive. Apply what Jesus has done in his day to what you can do in yours. Amen.